I'm joined today by the former Auckland Darts Masters champion Kyle Anderson. Kyle, how are you?
Not too bad, Bert. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, and thanks for joining us. And first off, we have to start with the news we all heard last week. After 4 weeks in isolation, you finally tested negative for the coronavirus. What's it been like now that you got the all clear to be able to return home to your family?
I think it was more the relief that it had gone. After the first week and a half, I had no symptoms, so it was just a matter of waiting. And 2.5 weeks of just waiting what's going to happen, and doctors are still saying that you're sick, but you know yourself that you have no symptoms. So it was just more the uncertainty of what is it going to come back, or is the cough going to return, or am I going to be hospitalised? It was just really uncertain.
Now, before that, you made the decision to fly back home to Australia about 6 weeks ago now when the season went on hold and a lot of events postponed or canceled. Was having family time the main reason to go home, or was it just the uncertainty of what was going on?
What it was it was more of a less. Damon said to me, we were practicing at the time and we were watching the news. It was saying that Australian borders soon to be closed as we were watching Australian news. And Damon just goes, you know what, I'm going home. And to my reply was, I'm coming with you. And that was it. There was no thinking about it. There was no umming and ahhing about darts. It was just, let's just go home.
Now, as we mentioned, right after you got home, developed some symptoms and tested positive. How difficult was the month in isolation, and what did you do to get through it?
It was very difficult because, I just got home, so I got to see Tara, I got to see Charles, and we were enjoying time together. Then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from the doctor's surgery from down the road, and the lady goes, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you've got the coronavirus. So instantly, and as you do, I started crying because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I thought that was and to be honest, what the news said, I thought it was going to be a death notice. So I started crying. And I sat down with a lady on the phone, and she says to me, you've got to pack up your stuff and you've got to go isolate yourself from your family. Because if you don't isolate from your family, that means that they too have to be isolated for the duration of your isolation. So I had to pack up and go up to the in-laws farm where I had a portable house up there.
Well, thankfully, everything ended up well, and let's go back to some happier times. We were looking back. We first had you on the show back in our first series back in 2017, more than 3 years ago. And what a year 2017 was for you, winning your first TV title, the Auckland Darts Masters, as well as your first Pro Tour. What memories come to mind when you think about that TV title?
The TV title, I think, to be honest, I'd say the 160 finished against Corey. That was more or less a game changer, I believe, because Corey was on fire and I hit that 160, and all of a sudden he was on tops or something. I took that 160 and it really hit him, and then I just found confidence from that. It's funny how they say that when something changes in the game, you find confidence, and that 160 for me was confident.
You mentioned that beating Corey Cadby in the final last leg decider. Over the weekend, we heard an interview from him that after some hard times away from the Auck, he plans to come back and give it a go. Have you been in contact with him all recently, and do you feel if and when he comes back, he'll be able to resume fully and at top level?
Yeah, I have not had contact with him. I've had barely minimal contact with anybody for the past 5 weeks, bar Mac and family, close family. So, but look, it's going to be a hard road. I don't know the ins and outs of what Corey's been through. But we're not that close. We're close in the dart tour, but we're not that close. As in, I call him every week. It's. I don't know. I think I found it very hard being over there away from family. I think Corey's still a kid, and he's got a young family as well, so he found it more harder. But I can't comment on what he's been through because I don't know the full story. I haven't watched the video yet or the clip, so at this point in time, I can't comment on that. But
well, that's fair enough. We'll go back, talk about you for a bit. After that World Series win, made your first ranking TV semifinal in Hasselt at the European Championship, hitting a 9-darter before getting edged out by MVG. How proud of you were you at that run in Hasselt that weekend?
I'd say that was that in Hasselt, the week in Hasselt was brilliant. me, Mac, and one of Mac's mates, we called him Spag. We drove across from England, went across, and it was just a chilled drive the whole way. I've never been on the Euro Channel, and I went on that, so that was brilliant. Then we got there, and it wasn't more of a tournament feel. I just felt at ease for the whole week. And to the game against Michael, it was a width of 5 that could have made me, I don't know, rich, or it could have made me the Premier League. It was a total, let's say, a centimetre could have changed my life.
Well, look ahead then. 2018 made another deep run on TV, another semifinal representing your country, Australia. First, we might have even asked you this when we first had you on, but how special is it to represent your country, and how special was it, especially that time, to make it all the way to the semifinal?
It's certainly something different. There's more pressure on you to play for your country than it is for when you're playing by yourself. Because you know for a fact that you've got everyone from your country watching you, and you've got a certain amount of people that are back home saying they're wanting you to fail so someone else can come in. Doesn't matter who you are, how good you are, or how much mates you have. There's always a couple of people that actually have that sort of mentality. Playing with Simon, us playing together and gelling as a team is brilliant. I mean, as it's been noted before, that me and Simon haven't been the best of mates, but when it comes to putting that shirt on and playing for your country, I consider Simon the best mate.
You mentioned that you had some run-ins with him, but I think ahead of that, you settled the score with him, and you guys seem to get along good. He's represented Australia, of course, every time you've represented him the last few years. Has he given you any advice for the pairs tournament?
I'm not really giving any advice. We just sit back and chat about our family life back home, because we're raised on to play pairs over here. When you're a kid, you play doubles, you play pairs tournaments. The old we used to play Australian darts. The Sunday was a singles event, the Saturday was a pairs event. So everywhere you travelled, you had a pairs partner. So you had to learn to play if you wanted to make money. You had to play well in the pairs plus the singles. So that's pretty much a given for us too. But it's just the added extra of being on TV and just representing your country. If you fail, then we all fail. And you shouldn't think like that, but it's always a thought in your head that goes by.
So we'll also talk about 2019. You mentioned at the Alexandra Palace after one of your matches about the demons and the game caught up with you being away from home. How hard was it last year in particular, and what was it that kept you from packing up and moving back home permanently?
To be honest, I'd been away for 6 years and living with my mate in England. I enjoyed living with him. I loved everything about it, but it was just I missed that sort of taking my son to school, because every time I come back in January for 3-4 weeks, school was out, so I couldn't take him to school. I couldn't, pack lunches for him. And being a dad, that's something to look forward to. I couldn't take him, to see his mates to a footy game or anything, because it was just off season. So it was seeing them whilst I was playing darts, because I had other things occupying my mind. But then, I just started playing bad. My health started deteriorating a bit, and then all of a sudden I started thinking, well, what if something happened whilst I was away? I'd rather it happen if I was home, because then, I don't want a foreign land, no offence to people from England, but I don't want a foreign land to be the last thing I see, as per se. I'd rather it be home or just family in that case.
Well, fair enough, and I know that feeling, having lived overseas for a year, and the homesickness. I can't even imagine 6 years and being that far away. But let's look ahead. 2020 this year, your friend, childhood friend Damon Hedda won his tour card at Q School and moved over to the UK. Obviously, the season's been interrupted, but how much did that help you, having him over in the UK competing alongside you?
I was sitting back watching him when he was playing Q School, and he said to me, if I get a tour card, you're going to come live with me. I said, I've already got a place to stay, but if you get a tour card, maybe so we can catch up just like old times. So, be 5, 10, 15 minutes away, I'll just come driving down to your house and do what we do. So he got a tour card, and he was going to move to Manchester, and I said to him, what are you doing? I said, it's nowhere near me. I said, I'm in the East Midlands, so find somewhere around there. So they did, and it was about 16, probably 20 miles from mine. And I said, look, I don't mind that. I said, I'll drive that half an hour or so just to come and see you. And so we ended up practicing a lot together, and I think it helped my game a bit because I started enjoying it, and I started to have that sort of home feeling with me, and it was everything but my family. It just made me feel like I was back at school.
And finishing up, you mentioned family, you mentioned starting to feel comfortable again on the hockey. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. You have, of course, the all clear with your health, but what's the next plan? Are you going to play the PDC at home series, and if and when the season gets back underway, what are your goals?
Everything's up in the air at the moment with the PDC home tour. I'm hoping to, or I'd like to, but I've got to find. I don't know. I've just got a dartboard in the garage, so I really haven't really got a light set up because this isn't home for darts as such. When I come home, it's just family time, so it's not darts. So when the PDC comes back, when it does, when it doesn't, I don't know. I think this year might be a bit far-fetched to say come back because I think Australia's got international restrictions on travelling, so I think that cuts me and Damon out for, I think, probably to the end of the year, maybe. I'd like to think about that when it comes to be, because right now I'm back with the family. It's a different sort of take on life whilst I'm back here. It's not darts related, it's more, I don't know, family time and catch up.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much, and hopefully that time comes soon, and enjoy your recovery with your family.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much, buddy.